Yesterday we looked at Abhidhamma from a little distance. So today we will go closer to the Abhidhamma. Before we get into the Abhidhamma proper, we need to understand the two kinds of truth. Two kinds of truth taught in Buddhism. Now it is strange that in Buddhism there is not one truth. There are four truths taught in Buddhism. And truth is a relative term. And so it may mean different things to different people. So if you ask a Christian what truth is, then he will give one answer, and if you ask a Buddhist, he will give another different answer. Although people say there is only one truth and the teachers express it in different ways, even that one truth is difficult to define. So for Buddhists the truth is one thing, and for other people of other religion truth may mean differently. So we must understand what truth means in Buddhism. And in Buddhism, truth is just explained as something that is not untrue. That means that is not otherwise than is stated. And something that is true to what has been described of it is called truth. And that truth is true either in conventional sense or ultimate sense. And in Buddhism, truth need not be good or necessarily good or lofty. It may be anything that is true. So that is why craving, which is an unwholesome mental state, is the second noble truth, the noble truth of the origin of suffering. So in the teachings of the Buddha, even craving, which is a unwholesome mental state, is a truth. Just as craving is truth, so is mindfulness, wisdom, faith, loving kindness. So they are also truths. So there are two kinds of truth, the conventional truth and ultimate truth. And conventional truth means something that conforms to the convention of the people or usage of the people. That is true by convention. Now suppose I ask you how you came to the class. I think you will answer, we came in a car. So when you say we came in a car, you are expressing a kind of truth. Because when you say you came in a car, you are not lying to me. You are saying what is true. You came in a car. But if we analyze the car, if we take the parts of the car one by one and put in different places, then we lose the car. There is no car. The wheels are not car, the body is not car, the engine is not car, the seats are not car. But when they are put together in a certain way, we call it a car. So in the ultimate analysis, there is no car, just the parts. But when these parts are put together in a certain way, we call it a car. We call it means all of us agree to call it a car. So by convention, it is true that we came here in a car. But in the ultimate analysis, we don't come here in a car. Maybe we use the vehicle, and that has 4 wheels, a body, a seats, and so on. So everything in the world that we experience is true only to convention. We can take many examples of this. Now, a house, we live in a house. So when we say we live in a house, we are again stating a truth, or we are not lying. But if we take the different parts of the house apart, then we lose the designation house, and there is no house, just the parts. So conventionally, a house is a truth. Conventionally, a car is a truth. The same with a human being. Now we call a person man. So when we say he is a man, we are stating a truth. He is a male human being, and so it is a truth. But in ultimate analysis, again, we don't have a man. A man is nothing but a combination of mind and matter. So what is true in a human being, in a man, is mind and matter, and not the man. The same with the woman. So there are always these 2 kinds of truth in everything in the world. And this conventional truth is called in Pāļi Sammuti Satya. Now I want you to be familiar with the Pāļi words also. So Sammuti means convention, agreement of the people. So truth by agreement, truth by convention. And this Sammuti Satya is also called Paññatti, or concept. And there are 2 kinds of Paññatti. The first one is, as you see on the screen, Nama Paññatti, name concept. Name concept means names given to different objects. It is called name concept, or in Pāļi Nama Paññatti, because it makes things known. The name makes things known. That means the name denotes things. And the other Paññatti is Attha Paññatti, or thing concept. Thing concept means the objects or beings denoted by the names or concepts. So we always have these 2 kinds of concepts, name concept and thing concept, with regard to things we experience or we come into contact with. Now, for example, again let us take the car. Now the name car, or the word car, is a name concept, because the word car denotes the thing which we call a car, and the thing which is a car is the thing concept. So there are 2 concepts regarding the car. One is name concept and the other is thing concept. So the word car is a name concept, and the car itself is a thing concept. When we say a man, now the word man is a name concept, and the person whom we call man, a human being, a male human being, is thing concept. So all names or nouns are name concept, and the things or meanings denoted by or represented by these names are called thing concept. So everywhere we get these two. And out of these concepts we take or we extract the ultimate reality. Now when we say a man, the name or the noun man is the name concept, and the man, the person we call man, is a thing concept. And from this thing concept we extract the ultimate reality, that is mind and matter. So what we call man is a combination of mind and matter, and so what is real in the man is just mind and matter, and not the man, because if we analyze the man into mind and matter, we lose the man himself. So everywhere we can get these three things: name concept, thing concept, and reality. Now in the example of a car, we may say that the word car is a name concept, and the car itself is thing concept, and the parts of the car are ultimate realities. Now again, this is just an example, because if we take the parts of the car, or if we look at the parts of the car, they themselves are concepts. What is real in the part is the material particles, a very, very small material particles. So the ultimate reality in the parts is the material particles. So with regard to conventional terms, we have these three things: name concept, thing concept, and ultimate reality. And this concept is said to be timeless. Now timeless means we cannot say that a concept is present or past or future, because the concepts exist only in our imaginations. We just think of these concepts. They have no intrinsic existence of their own. So we think of a combination of mind and matter as man, woman, and we think of the combination of parts as a car, a house, and so on. But we do not know when the concept came into being, whether it is present or future, simply because it has no real existence of its own. Because concept just exists in our imagination, and it has no division into present or past or future, it cannot become the object of vipassana meditation. Now when we practice vipassana meditation, we try to see the arising and disappearing of the objects, but we do not know when the concept arises and when it will disappear, because sometimes concept may seem to disappear, but actually they do not. Now the Buddha was a hermit Sumedha during the time of Buddha Dīpankara. Now that concept, that name Sumedha, seemed to be present at the time when Sumedha was living, and he aspired for Buddhahood in the presence of King Buddha Dipankara and so on. But after he passed away, the concept Sumedha seemed to have disappeared. But actually it did not, because later on, when Buddha related his past life as Sumedha, it seemed to come into being again. And this name Sumedha will go on in our minds, say, as long as the world lasts, or even it may go on into the other worlds. So, Paññatti or concept has no, say, time frame. That is why Paññatti cannot become the object of vipassana meditation. Now the other truth is ultimate truth, and in Pāļi it is called Paramattha, Satya. Now Satya means truth, and Paramattha means ultimate, the final thing or final truth. Now the ultimate truth is that which conforms to reality. That means which we can really experience. Now, for example, we take consciousness. Consciousness is called an ultimate reality because it has existence of its own, and we can experience this consciousness in our minds, and we know when consciousness arises, we know that it arises, and when it disappears, we know it disappears. So consciousness is called an ultimate truth. It has existence of its own. Now you are listening to me, and you have hearing consciousness. At every moment you hear my voice. So you know that consciousness is a reality. Now when you see something also, there is a seeing consciousness in your mind, and you experience a seeing, and so you know that seeing or seeing consciousness is a reality. So the ultimate truth is that which conforms to reality, which has its own existence, and it is called Paramattha in Pāļi. And Paramattha is defined as the ultimate thing or the correct thing. It is called ultimate thing or correct thing because it is real as it is. It is not otherwise than is stated. That means consciousness is something that is aware of the object. So when it is described as something that is aware of the object, it is the real awareness of the object and not otherwise. And so it is called ultimate thing or correct thing, or in Pāļi, Paramattha. Now, it is not like things at magic shows or mirage. Now, at magic shows, the magicians show us things that are not real, but we think that they are real. Sometimes they may put a woman in a box, and then they may cut her into different parts, and we think that the woman is really cut because they are so realistic. But actually it is just an illusion. And the same with other magical tricks. So at the magic shows, whatever is shown is always an illusion. They are not real. But this ultimate truth is not like magic shows. They are real. and they have their own existence, and also mirage. I hope you have seen mirage in your lives. I was told that you do not have seasons in Singapore. Especially in summer when it is hot, then you can see mirages. So they seem to be water, and you think there is water at some distance, and then you follow that water and it moves from you as you move. And so actually there is no water, but you think that that is water. So the mirage is actually an illusion and not a reality. The Paramattha or ultimate reality is not like mirage. It is real. And also it can be seen by oneself. It can be realized by oneself. It can be experienced by oneself. Now, things known from hearsay may or may not be real. Say we hear about something, and that something from some other person, and that may be real or that may be not. But the ultimate reality is not like that. Ultimate reality is something that we can see for ourselves, that we can experience for ourselves, that we can realize for ourselves, especially through the practice of meditation. So we practice Vipassana meditation and we experience the consciousness, we experience the different mental states, and we came to see the material properties also, and so they can be experienced or seen by oneself, and so they are called Paramattha or ultimate reality. And the ultimate reality is not easy to see. It is hidden from us because we are so influenced by or so carried away by the convention. We live in the conventional world, and so it is very difficult for us to cut through the outer layer of concept and get to the inner core of ultimate reality. That we have to do using the tools of Abhidhamma, the tools of analysis taught in Abhidhamma. When Buddha analyzed the world, he analyzed it into 5 aggregates. So following these, we now see that what we call a human being is just a combination of these 5 aggregates. So these 5 aggregates are what are real about the person we call a man or a woman. And a man or a woman himself or herself is just an illusion. And we imagine that it is a being, it is a man, it is a woman, but in reality there is no man or woman apart from the 5 aggregates. So when we analyze the things we come across, or we analyze beings, we come to see that there are only these 5 aggregates and nothing else. And so these 5 aggregates are what are called ultimate reality. So there are always the conventional truth and ultimate truth. Now, with regard to terms of the ultimate truth, there are only 2 things: name, concept, and ultimate reality. So there is no thing concept regarding the terms of ultimate reality. For example, feeling. Now, feeling is a mental state or a mental factor, and it is an ultimate reality. So the word feeling or the name feeling is a name concept, but the feeling itself is not thing concept, because it is a reality. We feel or we experience the feeling. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are unhappy, or sometimes we are neutral. So we can experience the feeling, and so that feeling is an ultimate reality. So with regard to terms of ultimate reality, we have only two things: name concept and ultimate reality. So we can take anything as an example and try to find out the name concept, thing concept, and ultimate reality. So from anything or everything we can squeeze out the ultimate reality. So these are the two kinds of truth taught in Buddhism. And Buddha used both terms of conventional truth and ultimate truth when he taught. If a person is capable of understanding him when he used the terms of conventional truth, then he would use the terms of conventional truth, like man, woman, animal, and so on. But if he found that a person will understand him only when he used the terms of ultimate truth, then he would use the terms of ultimate truth as aggregates, sense bases, elements, truths, and so on. But it is said in the books that Buddha quite often did not start with using terms of ultimate truth, because talking in terms about ultimate truth is rather dry. So if possible, Buddha started teaching using the conventional terms of conventional truth, and only after a person has understood him would he use the terms of ultimate truth. So according to the capability of the person and according to circumstances, Buddha used both the terms of conventional truth and ultimate truth. And as I said yesterday, when teaching people, Buddha mostly used the terms of conventional truth. But when he taught the Abhidhamma, he used mostly the terms of ultimate truth, because Abhidhamma is very analytical, and when analyzing beings or things, Buddha had to use the terms of ultimate truth, such as consciousness, mental factors, or material properties, and so on. So these are the two kinds of truth we must understand, and in Abhidhamma we will find mostly the ultimate truth, and when we study Abhidhamma we will study the ultimate truth in their divisions. And in Abhidhamma it is said that 4 kinds of ultimate truth are taught. We have to be grateful to the teachers of old to tell us that in Abhidhamma the 4 kinds of ultimate truths are taught. If they did not tell us, if they did not write books that 4 kinds of ultimate truth are taught in Abhidhamma, it would be very difficult for us to understand that in Abhidhamma Pitaka the 4 kinds of ultimate truth are taught. we would have to read the whole of Abhidhammattha, and even then it is doubtful that we will understand. But now the ancient teachers have read all the Abhidhammattha for us, and then they came out with this statement that 4 kinds of ultimate truths are taught in Abhidhamma. So we should be very grateful to them. And the 4 ultimate truths are: 1, Citta. Now let me use the Pāļi word Citta. I told you yesterday that Citta is translated as consciousness, and although we use the word consciousness for the word Citta, it is not accurate. Now Citta is defined as something that thinks of the object. Here, thinking means not real thinking, but just the awareness of the object. So Citta may be defined as awareness of the object. Now when we teach meditation, we use the word awareness, to be aware of the object. Now in meditation instructions, awareness means mindfulness. But here, awareness means just a pure awareness of the object, just a mere awareness. So at the stage of this awareness, we do not yet know that the object is white or black or yellow or red. We just know that there is an object. So that simple mere awareness of the object is what we call Citta, which is translated as consciousness. And that awareness is just like clear water. It has no color. It is neither wholesome nor unwholesome, neither good nor bad. It is just a mere awareness of the object. Now when I'm talking now, I'm looking at you, but I am aware of something there. So that awareness is just an awareness. I don't really know what it is, but I know there's something there. So in the same way, the awareness defined of Citta is like that, just the simple or mere awareness of the object. But when the commentators give the definition, they have to use the word chinteti in Pāļi, which means to think. But actually, thinking here means just knowing the object or the awareness of the object. That mere awareness of the object is what we call consciousness in Abhidhamma. And Citta is never without an object. Now we must understand this clearly. This Citta or consciousness must always have an object. Since the definition is the awareness of the object, it must always have an object. So Citta can never be without an object. Sometimes people say we put the mind blank without any object. But actually, without an object, Citta cannot arise. There can be no Citta. So Citta is always without an object. That object may be a vivid object, as we see something or as we hear something, or it may be an obscure object, like when we are asleep. So even when we are asleep, there is consciousness, and that consciousness must have an object, and that object is an obscure object. So Citta or consciousness cannot be without an object at any time or at any moment. It must always have an object, since its definition is the awareness of the object or something that knows the object. And this citta is always with us. From the moment we take conception in the womb of the mother until we die, there is always this citta. Even when we are in deep sleep, there is consciousness or citta, taking the obscure object. So we can never be without citta. That is, unless we become anagamis or arahants and enter into what is called attainment of cessation. Now, a person, after becoming an anagami or an arahant, if he has jhanas, he can enter into what is called attainment of cessation. Attainment of cessation means attainment of cessation of mental activities. So when he is in the attainment, in that attainment of cessation, then mental activity is temporarily suspended. So there is no mental activity during that time. It may be 1 hour, 2 hours, or it may be 1 day, 2 days, or it may be 7 days for human beings at most. If we are not anagamis, and if we are not arahants and not Buddhas, then we cannot enter into that attainment of cessation. And so, for most people, citta is always with them. So, we cannot be without citta at any moment in our lives. And then it is important to know the other words that mean the same thing, used in the suttas as well as in Abhidhamma. And these are, now the synonyms of citta, vijnana. Sometimes citta is called vijnana. So they are synonymous. Sometimes it is called mana or mano. Yesterday I told you the first verse in Dhammavacara, mano pubbangama dhamma. So mano or mana is one synonym of citta. Sometimes it is called citta. The next ultimate reality is Cetasika. The word Cetasika is compounded of citta, cittas, and ika. So the word citta is also a synonym for citta. And then there is a word manasa. We may find this in some discourses, manasa. And the last is Hadiya. Hadiya really means the heart. Now the heart is said to be the seat of many types of consciousness. And so the word Hadiya or the heart came to be a synonym for citta or consciousness. So you may find these words when you read books on Buddhism and when you read books on Abhidhamma. So sometimes the word vijnana is used, sometimes mana, sometimes citta, and so on. So when we find these words, so we must understand that although the etymological meaning may be different, the real thing denoted by these words is the same. So consciousness is citta is sometimes called vijnana, and so on. And you will find the word vijnana later on when we study the individual types of consciousness. And in Abhidhamma, Citta is divided into 89 types or 121 types. So there are 89 Cittas or 121 Cittas taught in or recognized in Abhidhamma. Now we will study these later on, 89 and 121 types. So this is the first of the four ultimate truths. So the first of the four ultimate truths is Citta or consciousness. Now the second ultimate truth. The second ultimate truth is Cetasikas, mental factors or mental concomitants. Cetasikas is defined as those which are yoked on Citta or which are yoked with Citta. That means which are associated with Citta, which depend on Citta for their arising. So these mental states are called Cetasikas. Now in Abhidhamma, mind is minutely analyzed. First it is analyzed into two, Citta and Cetasika. And then Citta is analyzed into 89 or 121 types, and Cetasikas are analyzed into 52. We'll come to that later. So Cetasikas are those that are associated with Citta. That is why they are called mental concomitants. That means those that are concomitant with Citta, or those that arise at the same time with Citta. And they are called Cetasikas because they depend on the Citta to arise. That means if there is no Citta, they will not arise. There can be no Cetasikas. Now Citta is defined as awareness of the object. Now when there is no awareness of the object, how can there be feeling of the object? How can there be understanding of the object? How can there be mindfulness of the object? So that is why Citta is said to be their leader, their forerunner. So Cetasikas or mental factors depend on Citta for their arising. Only when Citta arises do they arise, and if Citta does not arise, they cannot arise. So Citta and Cetasikas arise at the same time, simultaneously. But Citta is called their leader or their forerunner. So forerunner means just their leader, and their leader here means that the Cetasikas depend on Citta for their arising. And the Cetasikas have the following characteristics. Arising together with Citta. A Cetasika must arise together or at the same time with Citta. And perishing together with Citta. It disappears simultaneously with Citta. So they arise together, they disappear together. And they must have the same object as the Citta. So there is no such case as Citta taking one object and Cetasikas taking another object. So they must take the same object. And the last characteristic is they must have a common base with Citta. Now, there are material properties that are called bases. For example, the eye. Now, there are sensitive material properties in the eye, probably on the retina. So the eye is said to be a base for seeing consciousness to arise. That means only when we have the eye do we see. If we have no eyes, then we will not see, or there will be no seeing or seeing consciousness. So when seeing consciousness arises, it must depend on a base, a material base. Here, the sensitive parts of the eye. So the consciousness must have that sensitive part as a base, and so must the mental factors. They must have the same base, they must depend on the same base. So any mental state that is endowed with these four characteristics is called a Cetasika. The Cetasikas are analyzed into 52 in Abhidhamma, and we will be studying these Cetasikas in due course. So this is the second ultimate reality. Now the third ultimate reality is Rūpa, or matter. So matter is one reality taught in Abhidhamma. And matter or Rūpa is defined as something which changes when coming into contact with adverse conditions, such as cold, heat, etc. Now when we go out into the sun, we have one series of material properties, and when we go into the shade, we have another series of material properties, and so on. So the material properties with these conditions, such as cold, heat. Now when we are thirsty, we have one kind of material properties, and when we are hungry, another kind of material property, and so on. And here change means the obvious or discernible change, because mind changes also. Mind changes at every moment, but mind is not called a Rūpa. Only that whose change is obvious is called Rūpa. So in everyday term, Rūpa means matter or material properties. So they are called Rūpa in Pāļi because they change with cold, heat, and so on. And this matter exists in living beings and also in outside things. So there is Rūpa in our bodies or in us, and there is Rūpa in outside things, in trees, plants, mountains, rivers, and so on. It has no ability to cognize. Now Rūpa has no power to cognize, so Rūpa does not know anything. A log or a rock does not know anything. And even our bodies, if separated from mind, knows nothing. That is when we die. So the material property or Rūpa has no cognitive power. It does not know anything. In contrast, Citta and Cetasika have the cognitive power. They take objects and they know the object. But the Rūpa or material property has no such ability. So it cannot know anything, it cannot cognize anything. And the Rūpa is analyzed into 28 kinds of material properties in Abhidhamma. So according to Abhidhamma, there are 28 material properties. They are comparable to elements in chemistry. So we are composed of 28 material properties. a man is composed of 27 material properties and a woman is composed of 27 material properties. And the outside things are composed of 8 kinds of material properties. So we will come to that later when we study the Rūpa or matter in detail. Now the last ultimate reality is Nibbana. It is the highest goal of Buddhism. So the highest goal or the aim of all Buddhists is to reach Nibbana. And what is Nibbana? It is very difficult to describe Nibbana simply because we have not been to Nibbana, and also it is so different than what we have been experiencing that it is difficult to perceive, difficult to understand. It is described as extinction of desire, ill will and delusion. That means the extinction of mental defilements. Although it is described as extinction of desire, ill will and delusion, it is not a negative state. It is like health or peace. Now health, if you are asked to define health, how would you do it? Or somebody asks, what is health? So how would you answer? Absence of disease. So we use negative terms to describe a positive state. Health is not a negative state. But when asked to define it, we will say health is the absence of diseases. The same with peace. What is peace? Peace is the absence of violence and so on. So Nibbana is a positive state, but mostly it is described in negative terms. Not this, not this, not this, and so on. It is liberation or freedom from all suffering. So when a person attains final Nibbana, he gets free from suffering. So that freedom from suffering is also called Nibbana. Now, out of the 4 ultimate realities, the first 3 are those that are conditioned. But the last one, this Nibbana, is unconditioned. So it is not caused by anything. It is not the result of anything. So it is a state by itself as freedom from suffering or freedom from the mental defilements. Now it is important to understand this, because there are some people who do not understand the Pāļi word for it, the unconditioned, asaṅkhata. And then they say Nibbana is uncompounded, but it is not unconditioned. I don't think that is correct. The word asaṅkhata means not made. Not made means it must not be made by anything, it must not be conditioned by anything. So Nibbana is called in Pāļi asaṅkhata, and it is translated as unconditioned. So whether it is unconditioned or uncompounded, it has no cause, it is not caused by anything, it is not the result of anything. And it is not consciousness, it is not mind. In Abhidhamma, Nibbana is described as an external object. External object means not belonging to us. Just as we can take any external object as object, at the moment of enlightenment, the consciousness can take Nibbana as object. Only when the consciousness takes Nibbana as object does the consciousness possess the power to eradicate mental defilements. That means at the moment of enlightenment, a type of consciousness arises in his mind, and that consciousness is called a path consciousness, and that path consciousness takes Nibbana as object. It takes Nibbana as object, and at the same time it eradicates mental defilements. So Nibbana is an external object that can be taken as object by the path consciousness and fruition consciousness. But there is a saying in a discourse that all four truths can be found in this fathom-long body. The truth of suffering, truth of origin of suffering, truth of cessation of suffering, and truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. They can be found in this fathom-long body. But that does not mean that Nibbana exists in us, in our body, or in our mind. That means just that Nibbana is realized by oneself, and taking the Nibbana as object. So Nibbana is not internal, it is external, and Nibbana is not mind or not mental. It is no mind, no matter, so it is outside mind and matter. But there is a saying, or it is taught in Abhidhamma, that Nibbana is called Nama. That may be confusing. In the 6th book of Abhidhamma, Nibbana is mentioned as Nama, one of the Nama. But there, it does not mean that Nibbana has cognitive power or Nibbana knows the other objects. The word Nama is defined in two ways. The first is it inclines to the object. That is one definition of the word Nama. So what is Nama? Nama is something that inclines to the object, that bends to the object. That means that takes the object. That is one definition of the word Nama. And the second definition is something that makes others inclined towards it. So there is a causative sense here. Something that makes others inclined towards it. So according to that definition, Nibbana can be called Nama. That is why Nibbana is mentioned as Nama. But we are not to understand that since it is called Nama, it is mental. Nibbana is not mental. Nibbana is neither mental nor physical. Nibbana is something quite different from both mind and matter. Therefore, it is said that it cannot be adequately described in everyday terms. So in everyday terms, however much we describe Nibbana, we will not describe it accurately or adequately. But Nibbana is a positive state which can be realized through the practice of vipassana meditation. Only through vipassana meditation can one realize Nibbana. So these are the four ultimate truths: Citta, Cetasikas, Rūpa, and Nibbana. And these ultimate truths are taught in many ways in the 7 books of Abhidhamma. And in the Abhidhammattha Saṅgaha also, which we are studying, these 4 ultimate realities are taught or described in detail, and so we will be studying these during this class. Okay, there will be a coffee break.